Hello, and welcome back to In the Scare, where every week I watch one scary movie and break down 3 scenes that terrify, frighten, or freak us out, just to see why they're so f***ing scary. This week, The Perfection, 2019, directed by Richard Shepard, starring Allison Williams and Logan Browning. The Perfection is a twisted psychological ride with incredible performances from 2 brilliant actresses and an ending that will have your jaw on the floor. I'm not joking. The Perfection is a film that hides itself in every scene. So well, in fact, that you're only enlightened to what is actually going on when it decides to show you. The Perfection has secrets you will never see coming. And I promise you, whatever your best guess is, you have no idea what's in store. So pop some ibuprofen, get on the bus, and let's talk about The Perfection. The film revolves around Charlotte and Lizzie, 2 amazing cellists who study at the ritzy private school in Boston. Charlotte had to leave the school when she was younger. Lizzie picked up where Charlotte left off and now has become a world-famous cellist. Charlotte is now catching back up and meeting Lizzie for the first time. The 2 hit it off right away. A sexual connection forms. After waking up hungover from the night before and popping some ibuprofen, the girls head out to rough it across the country. Lizzie is still not feeling great, but they decide to go grab some food, which maybe will help, but turns out is a bad idea and very gross. So they board a small, dirty bus. It's so dirty, in fact, that when they're walking on, Charlotte notices bugs crawling all over the place.
There's a bug.
But Lizzie's not getting better. She's really sick, maybe hungover, but it seems to be getting a lot worse than that. She says her head feels like it's exploding, and it's starting to be clear that something is very wrong with her. Suddenly, Lizzie really has to puke. I mean, it's coming out. And so she goes over to the window, and this is scare number 1. Are those bugs?
Please. Oh God. Are those bugs? Are those fucking bugs?
So Lizzie goes over to the window. She throws up out the window and it slimes all down the side of the window. And then Charlotte notices that in her vomit, there's bugs. It's full of maggots. She just threw up a ton of bugs. Ooh. What does that mean? Why does she have maggots in her? Why is she vomiting them? This first scare really kind of comes out of nowhere. Yes, Lizzie's progressively been getting sicker, but this is the first time that something actually goes wrong. Now, there was a moment earlier in the movie where we saw that somebody else had gotten sick at the party, but they didn't make a big deal about it. I think what makes this so scary is that these 2 girls are in the middle of nowhere. First of all, Charlotte doesn't speak the language, so now you're getting sick. Anytime you get sick on a road trip, it sucks. I can safely say that I don't think anyone was expecting her to be vomiting bugs. Up until this point, we've been given these hints and these clues, like in any movie, that this is probably going to be some sort of psychological thriller, but this first scare really kind of throws us off. Most of us have let our guard down at this point. There hasn't really been anything scary at all. And so my mind's going, I thought this was like a weird psychological thriller type thing. Is this like a weird zombie virus, like we're catching a bug and now we gotta flee the country and who has it? Is this an outbreak? What's happening? All those thoughts start racing through your mind. What did I get myself into? What is this? What is this movie? And that's why I love this scare. So Lizzie begins to freak the f*** out, rightfully so. And finally she just starts banging her head against the side of the bus and they're forced to start walking along the road. They really don't know where they are or what they're going to do. This is just progressing. I mean, Lizzie is just freaking out. She just vomited bugs and then she starts feeling like there's bugs inside her arms. There's little movements and bumps moving in her arms. Charlotte also sees them and then suddenly roaches and spiders and maggots burst from out the skin of her arms.
What the fuck?
And now there's just bugs crawling all over her arms.
What the fuck is inside of you?
Everywhere, and she's screaming for help. Maybe she has the flu that guy in the concert had? What the hell is going on? Scare number 2. You know what you have to do.
Help me! Help me, Charlotte! You know what you have to do.
So after Lizzie screams for help, not knowing what to do, Charlotte holds up a cleaver and says, "You know what you have to do." Lizzie, not thinking, runs over to her, grabs it, and chops her frickin' arm off. Remember, she's a world famous cellist, so why did Charlotte have a cleaver? Now we get the first glimpse of the rewind. Charlotte's been f***ing with Lizzie the entire time. The ibuprofen was antipsychotic meds from her mom. She planted ideas in Lizzie's head of there being bugs on the bus. When Lizzie threw up in the window, all those maggots, they weren't there. Charlotte pretended that there were bugs in the maggots. No bugs. Every reaction Charlotte had was planned, instigating Lizzie into a psychotic breakdown, feeding her hallucinations. When they're outside, there's nothing on Lizzie's arm. There's no bugs in her vomit. There are no bugs crawling out of her. Nothing. It's all in Lizzie's head. Charlotte is telling her that it's real. And this was her plan all along, to chop off her own arm so that she couldn't play the cello anymore. Crazy. This scare, combined with the first rewind, now we really can sink our teeth in and say, this is a psychological thriller. This is awesome. This is great cinema. This is something that I love to see in a movie. Usually right here, I would do some runners up, but no runners up this time. So after Lizzie chops off her arm, Lizzie shows up at the academy in the middle of the night and demands that they still accept her. But the weirdos at the academy, they don't really care. She decides to go kidnap Charlotte and get revenge. She goes to Charlotte's house, she finds her, she beats the crap out of her, and then we cut to her in front of the leaders of the academy's home. And she has Charlotte in her trunk, ready to trade. So we flash back now and we see what really happened with Charlotte in her youth. When Charlotte was younger, they put her to the test. They wanted her to be perfect, but there were consequences if she wasn't. And those consequences were abuse, sexual abuse, and just straight up rape. It was a f***ed up game. So seeing that Lizzie was so deep in this world, she knew the same thing was happening to her. And in her mind, the only way to pull her out was to chop off her arm and make it so that they would never want her again. A bit extreme, but for the right reasons? I don't know. So now, did you perhaps want to see the headmaster suffer because he raped these girls? Yeah, we got you covered. So back to the future now.
Marty! You've got to come back with me!
So they got Charlotte trapped and she's dressed up in this red dress on stage. So the teachers, the headmaster, and Lizzie are all seated in the audience. Lizzie is very pissed at her. She chopped off her arm. Well, she performs, and it's assumed it wasn't perfect. So Lizzie steps up and she says that she wants first dibs to harm Charlotte. And as soon as she walks up to her, the other teachers behind her pass out, and the final secret is revealed. We rewind again to Lizzie capturing Charlotte. She hit her, punched her, stomped on her. There's a conversation that wasn't revealed to us. She reveals that she understands why Charlotte did it. She too suffered the sexual abuse through the academy, and she couldn't see it at the time, but she realized that she would never be free of this. And now they reveal their plot to get rid of the real monsters. The headmaster, the teachers, and his wife. The whole night was planned. The kidnapping, the assumption that they would try to abuse Charlotte, everything. So they've drugged everyone but the headmaster. Charlotte and Lizzie head into the other room where the headmaster is. There's a final struggle, and they end up beating the living shit out of him. Unfortunately, during the fight, he was able to slash through Charlotte's arm. Pretty good. The knife went all the way through, and a long slice of her arm was cut. But that's okay, because that's when we get the final image of the movie. Scare number 3. Cello playing creature. In this final scene, the headmaster is set up in the same audience viewing chamber that Charlotte was just in before. All of his limbs have been chopped off and bandaged. He's set up to a medical monitor, an IV. His eyes and mouth are stitched shut. And now Lizzie and Charlotte sit down, front to back, and together perform the perfection. This is it. This is the final scene of the movie, and it is so amazing. The imagery in this is just fantastic. There's been this underlying theme throughout the movie with the perfection and what it takes to be perfect at an instrument like the cello. What they try to do here is they take away every sensation that he could possibly have to love anything in the world. He'll probably die soon. He'll probably die soon. But for now, he's got no arms, no legs, no hands, no feet, no eyes, no mouth. I think they left his nose going. And they just sit there, one in front of the other. I mean, if you saw a photo of this, you would think, oh, this is some human centipede stuff, and they're stitched together, and they're this crazy cello playing monster. The final scene is great because the way they shot it and the imagery we see, it brings together that psychological horror we've had throughout the whole movie and ties in the body horror that we've seen too. And this perfect creature of two women who got their revenge on this man that tortured them their entire life. And they're showing him that they are perfect in their own way. Or something like that. I don't know. But the ending is cool. Thank you for joining me on this journey through The Perfection. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you enjoyed the channel, please give it a subscribe. Drop some comments, and I'll see you next time on In the Scare.